The front door slammed against the wall so hard, I mean slammed, that the entire gallery of framed photos lining my hallway rattled like dice in a cup, and I just froze, coffee mug halfway to my lips. I'd been watching a game in the living room, trying to unwind after a brutal 12-hour shift, and suddenly this woman, this sheer, unadulterated force of nature wrapped in a pastel blazer and a shiny HOA president pin, stormed straight into my house, straight past the threshold, and marched into my kitchen like she owned the damn deed. She was swinging a clipboard like it was a medieval flail, her face contorted with this utterly unearned, righteous fury, the kind of look you usually only see on people who are absolutely, profoundly sure that they are God's chosen instrument of neighborhood justice. "This," she shrieked, her voice high and sharp enough to shatter glass, "is the 4th violation this month, Mr. Vance. Your azaleas are 3 centimeters over the approved height. Your recycling bin was visible from the curb for 41 minutes past collection time. And don't even get me started on that gargoyle you call a mailbox." I stood there, mute, just watching this complete stranger, Brenda Peterson, the president of the Maplewood Association, strutting around my private property. And I mean strutting. She actually ran her hand across my kitchen island, like she was checking for dust in a military barracks, before she did something that just absolutely short-circuited my brain. She opened my refrigerator. Just stood there, peering inside, wrinkling her nose in disgust like a judge about to issue a life sentence over a misplaced container of sour cream. "Excuse me?" I finally managed to say, my voice sounding distant even to my own ears. Trying desperately to keep the detective out of the homeowner, "You need to leave. Right now." She spun around with this theatrical flourish, her aggressively bleached hair whipping over her shoulder, clipboard still held high. "I am Brenda Peterson, president of the Maplewood Association," she declared, puffing out her chest so hard her little gold pin almost flew off. "And I have every right, Mr. Vance, to inspect properties for compliance, internal or external." Then she did the next thing that sealed her fate. She started reaching for my personal phone sitting on the counter, likely planning to snap photos of imaginary violations, or maybe just the sour cream. That's when the shock wore off and the training kicked in. 20 years on the force, years spent de-escalating domestic standoffs and negotiating with men holding hostages, all that muscle memory took over, and my tone shifted from the bewildered homeowner to the calm, measured authority I hadn't used in months. "Ma'am," I said evenly, the word dropping like an anchor in the silence, "you have just committed a felony. See, I'm Detective Alex Vance." 3 weeks earlier, I had moved into this quiet suburban cul-de-sac, desperately needing an escape. 2 decades of grinding police work, robberies, homicides, the kind of trauma that seeps into your bones, had left me craving nothing more than peace. I wanted to grill burgers, trim my own damn hedges, and spend weekends hearing birds instead of sirens. I'd bought this place, a nice little ranch with the dream of a quiet life. Brenda Peterson had other plans, obviously. From the second I unpacked the moving truck, she had targeted me like a heat-seeking missile made of petty grievances. The first violation notice claimed my new mailbox was 1.5 inches too low. The next one was about a minuscule oil stain on the driveway that, according to subsection 12.4 of the guidelines, constituted a contamination hazard. She even had the audacity to suggest my American flag was the incorrect shade of indigo. I tried the polite route, of course. I'd smile, nod, and make some vague agreement while thinking, "Lady, I've seen people bleed out on the sidewalk for less than you're complaining about." But the neighbors had warned me, their voices weary and resigned. "That's just Brenda," they'd mutter. "She's been president for 7 years. Thinks she runs a private military state." I figured I could handle one overzealous HOA president. I figured wrong. The turning point was the Labor Day cookout. I was hosting a small, friendly gathering, a few new neighbors, some classic rock humming low, and perfect smash burgers. We wrapped up by 8:30 p.m., well within the community's generous noise curfew. But at 6:45 p.m., Brenda showed up uninvited, carrying a massive industrial-grade tape measure. She didn't say hello, didn't ask for a burger. She just marched right up to my grill, knelt down, and announced, 4 feet 5 inches. Association regulations clearly require 5 feet clearance from the property line, Mr. Vance. This is a fire hazard. After that, it wasn't just bureaucracy, it became psychological warfare. Anonymous notes, typed out in aggressive, all caps Times New Roman, started appearing taped to my garage door daily. Your porch swing is asymmetrical. Your doormat is not regulation taupe. Your dog barked at a squirrel for 18 seconds too long. I started catching her peering over my fence, the flash of her phone going off at all hours like a strobe light. One night I saw her on a small stepladder peeking into my garage window like a judgmental raccoon wearing pearls. When I confronted her, she simply said she was documenting inconsistent architectural lines. Then came the gossip campaign. She created a private neighborhood Facebook group, Maplewood Standards Committee, dedicated solely to dissecting my property like a crime scene. She'd post blurry photos of my lawn and even photoshopped one to make it look like I was growing weeds the size of small shrubs. She was so convinced of my illegitimacy, she'd completely lost the line between civic duty and criminal obsession. Which brings us back to that fateful Tuesday afternoon. I was out in the backyard replacing a few warped planks on my old wooden deck. It was quiet, methodical labor, the kind of work that cleared the static in my head, and I had my noise-canceling headphones cranked up, listening to an old blues playlist. I didn't hear the front door ease open, but Brenda did. She must have been watching, perched somewhere, waiting for an opportunity. She saw me going in and out, carrying lumber, and realized I hadn't properly secured the door. To her, that wasn't an unlocked home. It was an open invitation. She slipped inside, quiet as a thief in her sensible orthopedic sandals, with the self-righteous certainty that the rules simply didn't apply to her. About 40 minutes later, sweaty and satisfied with the deck repair, I stepped back inside for a cold soda, and that's when I saw her. I froze dead in the hallway. Brenda wasn't in the kitchen anymore. She was at my dining room table, bent over like a burglar meticulously cataloging loot. My mail, personal letters, bills, my mother's birthday card, even my bank statements, were spread out in neat, organized piles. She was photographing every single document with her phone, zooming in on account numbers and addresses. My desk drawers were hanging open, my personal notebook was flipped through, and my calendar was exposed. What? I asked, the single word cutting through the quiet suburban air, my voice dropping instantly into that cold, sterile, unnervingly calm register I'd only ever used inside an interrogation room. Exactly do you think you are doing? She snapped up, clutching that clipboard to her chest like it was a holy relic. She was shaking, but still trying to puff out her authority. I'm conducting a lawful internal HOA inspection. You've been reported for flagrant violations, and I have the authority to investigate. No, I replied, pulling my work-issued phone out of my pocket and hitting the record button. My hands were steady, my focus singular. You have zero authority to enter my home, Brenda. That's called criminal trespass. It's breaking and entering. It's invasion of privacy. And judging by what you're doing with my bank statements, it's also attempted identity theft. She let out a sharp, barking laugh, a sound full of disbelief and pure, unadulterated arrogance. Don't be ridiculous, Mr. Vance. The Maplewood Charter gives me full inspection rights. It's all perfectly legal, she hissed, her eyes daring me to challenge her. I couldn't help it. A small, dry laugh escaped me, just enough to make her flinch, just enough to show her I wasn't scared, I was merely disappointed. Really? I countered, folding my arms across my chest, leaning slightly against the doorway. Show me, Brenda, go ahead. Show me where in that charter it says you can enter a private residence without consent. I'll wait. Her face went from a confident pink flush to a deep, angry crimson as she fumbled frantically through the papers on her clipboard, shuffling through pages like a magician who'd forgotten the vanishing trick. It's implied, she stammered, sweat beading on her forehead. How else am I supposed to ensure compliance from the outside of people's homes? You ensure 20 years on the force, I confirmed, closing the wallet with a sharp snap. I then pointed deliberately to the sleek, inconspicuous dome camera mounted high in the corner of the living room. In that camera over there? It's been recording since the second you stormed in. So has the one I installed in the kitchen and the one by the front door that clearly shows you walking past the no trespassing sign and entering without permission. Her clipboard clattered to the hardwood floor. The sound ridiculously loud in the sudden heavy silence. Panic set in. The kind of pure animal fear that overrides arrogance. "This is a misunderstanding," she stammered, taking a shaky step toward me. "I knocked." "I thought I heard you say come in from the backyard." I raised one eyebrow, perfectly dry. "Through my noise-canceling headphones, Brenda? That's some impressive directional hearing." I pulled out my work phone and started dialing the precinct's non-emergency line. Her eyes widened, the realization of the massive, catastrophic mistake she'd made settling like a storm cloud. "Wait," she blurted, throwing out a hand. "We can work this out. I'll leave right now. We can pretend this never happened." "That's not how crime works," I replied calmly, bringing the phone to my ear. "You don't get to commit a felony and then simply revoke it when you're caught." "Dispatch," I spoke clearly. My voice professional and steady. "This is Detective Vance. Badge number 8974. I need uniformed units at my residence for a burglary in progress. Suspect is still on scene attempting to dispose of evidence." Her knees buckled. She collapsed right onto my dining chair. The same chair she had been leaning over while violating my privacy minutes ago, and the tears began to stream down her face, washing away the last vestiges of her petty power. "Please," she choked out, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "I have a reputation. I run a real estate agency. This will ruin me." "You should have thought about that before you broke into a police officer's home, Brenda," I said, letting the accusation hang in the air. Or anyone's home, for that matter. "My badge doesn't make this crime worse. It just means I know exactly what criminal charges you're facing." Outside, the distant, rising wail of sirens grew louder, closer. Brenda heard it too, and desperation flickered across her features. "I'll resign from the HOA. I'll approve all your violations. I'll even buy you a new mailbox and apologize to the entire neighborhood," she begged. "You're still not grasping the gravity of this," I replied, just as two uniformed officers stepped through my still-open front door. "This stopped being about HOA politics the minute you touched my personal mail. This is purely criminal behavior now." I gave the responding officers a quick, clean rundown, showing them the time-stamped security footage on my phone. Their expressions, initially neutral, tightened into a look of disbelief and then professional anger as they watched Brenda rummaging through my documents. Officer Delgado, the senior officer, turned to her, his tone completely flat and businesslike. "Ma'am," he said, "I need you to stand up slowly and place your hands behind your back. You can't arrest me." She shrieked, stumbling to her feet, regaining a brief, futile moment of defiance. "I'm the HOA president. I know the local councilman. My husband is a managing partner at a major law firm." "Ma'am," Officer Delgado repeated evenly, pulling a pair of stainless steel cuffs from his belt. "None of that matters right now. You are under arrest for criminal trespass and unlawful entry." The metallic click of the cuffs echoed through my dining room like the sound of a judge's gavel hitting the desk. Brenda's face twisted, no longer arrogant, just a terrifying mix of fury and raw humiliation, as Delgado began reading her Miranda rights. "You have the right to remain silent. It's his word against mine." She spat, struggling against the cuffs. I simply held up my phone, stopping the recording. "Actually, Brenda," I interjected, looking her directly in the eye, "it's your actions, recorded in high definition, against the law." As they led her toward the cruiser, she threw one last venomous glare over her shoulder. "You'll regret this. I'll sue you for false arrest. The entire association will come after you." I gave her a casual wave and a small, sincere smile. "Looking forward to it, Brenda. See you in court." The entire cul-de-sac had poured out onto their lawns and driveways. Neighbors who had suffered under Brenda's petty tyranny for years watched with wide eyes and quiet, absolute satisfaction. I saw Mr. Stevens from 2 doors down start a slow, deliberate clap. Mrs. Kim across the street raised her iced tea in a mock salute. As the police cruiser rolled away, Brenda's muffled screams still audible, my next-door neighbor, Mark, walked over, grinning. "About damn time, Alex. We've been waiting for someone like you." The district attorney's office wasted zero time. My footage, combined with the clear charges, criminal trespass, unlawful entry, and attempted identity theft, painted an airtight case. Brenda's high-powered lawyer husband scrambled to negotiate. But the prosecutor wasn't interested in cutting a deal for a woman who had terrorized an entire neighborhood under the guise of civic duty. 2 months later, Brenda Peterson, the former Queen of Maplewood, stood before a judge. Her once commanding voice was gone. The judge delivered the sentence: 1 year of probation, a $5,000 fine, and 200 hours of community service. But the legal penalties were nothing compared to the complete fallout. The HOA board convened an emergency meeting the very next morning. Unanimous vote, Brenda was removed as president. She sat in the back of the room, crying silently as neighbor after neighbor recounted years of harassment, measuring tapes, and intimidation. Her real estate agency dropped her within a week, citing reputational damage to the firm. The local paper ran the headline, HOA, President arrested for breaking into detective's home. Her mugshot said it all. The woman who once ruled a neighborhood with a clipboard and a measuring tape sat powerless, facing the ultimate consequence, the complete and permanent loss of the control she'd wielded so recklessly. And as for me, well, my life is finally quiet. The new HOA president is a great guy who actually just wants to organize block parties. The only thing I have to worry about now is keeping my azaleas looking nice, and maybe adding a few more security cameras. You can never be too safe, especially in the suburbs. So, tell me, if you were Detective Alex Vance, would you have negotiated a non-arrest deal? Or was Brenda Peterson's behavior so egregious that calling 911 was the only way to restore balance to the community? Was this an overreach of authority or a perfect case of poetic justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss my next tale of suburban absurdity.